Hello. We will get started in just a minute. This is day 2 of the Soul Innovator 30-day adventure, where we work in partnership with the Akashic Records, and we're guided through a 30-day container of activations and messages and teachings, and the world around us begins to participate, and we as a global community are amplifying this together. And it's getting, this is going to be a vulnerable one again, and I can feel how much energy is already moving based on the sessions and the amazing responses. Ariana, hello. Based on the responses I'm getting in the Facebook group, you should really join us in there if you are participating. What I've already had happen, and I'll tell you, this room I'm in is like 10 degrees warmer than usual. I woke up to it being really hot in here. I'm shaking. Like, there's so much already moving in my system. I'm excited to share and hear what's been going on for everyone else. And this is why we really talk about supporting the nervous system, right? Because things are going to start to heat up, and especially because of how much intention and power was behind this particular 30-day container. And so many of us, as we talked about yesterday, are still living inside the energies and the intentions that were created in these containers. Like, there's a lot of power behind it. And this year, hey Tony, and this year we're doing legacy, right? We're doing self-worth. So if you're starting to feel some heat, physically or literally, if you're starting to really feel things burn off and burn away, like, me too, friend. So that's how we're doing it this year. I'm gonna share this in our Facebook group right now. And let's just all hop on and start to get ready. Good to see you, Dayana. Okay. The group is the 30-day next level adventure. Aww. And I'm gonna put right here, I'm sharing this, and then I'm gonna put the link to register. But if you look for the Facebook group, I'll add you into it. But if you want all of, like, everything to be curated for you, and if you want all the bonus content and all of that, then you're gonna want to do the actual group. So I'm just gonna put that in here really quick. Then we'll get started. I'm literally like, thank goodness I have my CBD and my different practices. Like, I can't wait to, part of me could definitely wait to tell you guys what I'm about to talk about, but I'm loving it. We're really burning through some things. You're welcome. Okay, so we're gonna sorry, this is taking a moment, because there's a lot of energy here. Hi, Steph. Oh, I know why I can't find it. All right, give me 1 more minute. We'll get going. Hello, if you're just joining us. Just get settled, get comfortable. I'm just trying to do logistical things while having my whole nervous system and energy field alchemized, which is what we'll talk about today. So sorry if it's taking a minute. We'll get started in just a second. Okay, so you'll see the article in there now, and you'll also see, if you want to register, we'll put in the 30-day registration in there. And I'll pretty it up after this. Okay. All right. Cool. Hi. All right. We're ready to go. I did all the things. So we're just going to take a couple breaths here to come into the space today. Breathing in some space and possibility for your experience in this container, and calling in all the guides, the guardians, and the teachers, and many of you connected with guardians and teachers. In particular, one for each of us really came through in yesterday's video, that are loving you and celebrating you and are going to really be right there with you through this 30 days. So you can call them in and just take a few breaths here. And then when you're ready, just putting a hand on the heart, a hand on the belly. And today, especially with the topic and what we're transmuting, it's just going to require a lot of love. And so just feel how much capacity you have for love in your heart. Take some breaths. And as you exhale out, feel your other hand just sending that right back into yourself. So just take a moment to really love yourself. Really experience the energy of love, and it has nowhere else to go but you. And just take a few more breaths here. And now feeling your feet on the ground, getting really grounded. And just be with yourself for a minute, because today we're talking about leadership. We are talking about reigning over your own territory. We'll talk about that in a minute. So part of knowing how to be in leadership and actually direct the things in your life the way you'd like them to be, with your relationships, with love, with money, with power, part of that is knowing how to just like be with yourself and trust yourself. And part of when we begin to feel not in control or in alignment with the resources we really want in our life, and there, could be time, could be money, could be love, could be vitality in our health and our emotions, right? Could be other specific ways you want to feel your impact and experience the world. When we begin to feel out of alignment or out of control of those things, it's when we haven't learned to just be with ourselves and trust ourselves. And really, this is the most important meeting of the day, is between you and you when it comes to those sort of things. So let's just take a few more breaths here, really being with yourself, loving yourself. Trusting yourself. And then just take one more deep breath. Coming back into this space. I want to wear my special ring for this. Woo! Okay, so today is day 2, as we said. And yesterday we were learning to... Hi, Chris. I remember you during the first 30-day adventure. Yesterday we were really learning, how to love the container and really allow ourselves to get grounded and comfortable and have the boundaries so that we can actually create longevity, and how actually in a short-term experience we create things that last a lifetime, right? Today is about learning how to reign over your territory. So I just want to look at that article while I'm talking to you. So just one second. You can see I'm really feeling a lot of energy. Hey, Bill. So today is about that. And here's the way I think of it, is that we're all here, right, to be the king or the queen of our own territory. And the theme that really came through is a queen or a king in your legacy is aware of all the territory in their reign. So you're the king or queen of your own life, and your territory is your life and your body and your emotions and your desires and all the relationships and all the environments and places in the world where you actually have impact, right? Sometimes we can feel small, or we can feel out of control, we can feel disconnected, but truthfully, you have a territory to reign, and it's your own physical and emotional experience. It's your own goal. It's also all these places you actually have impact in your space and in your world. So when you have a territory to reign, which all of us do, that means any king or queen, any leader is going to have resources, right? So when you're in charge of territory, there's resources. And hey Amanda at MK, the most important resources that we have are our time, right? There's the ones that really make an impact in our life. Our time, our money, our attention, and our love, right? Some of us might feel we have more access to one over the other. It's they're all just the energy of resource, because those are the energies, time, attention, money, and love, where things happen inside of that on this plane, on this planetary level, right? So when you're in leadership, you have access to time, attention, money, and love. You can choose to have a perception of having more or less of that, but like, let's just say as a leader in your own territory, you have access to resource, right? And you can choose to use those for the greatest good. You can look at your life and your relationships and your goals and your desires, and then you can look at your resources, and as a leader you can be with yourself and be like, all right, like, where do I want to put some love? Where do I want to put some money? Where do I want to put some time? Where do I want to put some attention? And you can really treat yourself like a leader, and you can look at like, how would this best work without anyone else's input as I look at my territory. Or, you know, you can not do that. Right? So throughout times, I talk about this article, it's like we've known leaders who have taken the resources and really like taken a higher perspective, and instead of being in the minutia and the chaos and the distraction, said, hey, okay, what's actually the greatest good? What is actually of service here for myself, because I need to be in a certain state in order to lead and reign, and for my territory, right? And then we know people who just squandered it, right? Who got drunk on the power, or projected a lot of stories onto their territory that weren't true, right? Or like didn't feel worthy, and this is the one we're gonna really work on. Hey, how are you, Sean? It's so good to see you here. And thank you for that information, Julie, right? Like, that's the one we're gonna really work on today, is where we don't feel worthy of the resources, and so we don't actually know how to be with them and delegate them like a king or a queen. So a king or a queen in their true legacy, this is what came through, finds the best way to utilize all the riches of time, attention, love, and money, right? In their territory. Like, that's when you're really in your legacy and you're really like reigning, then you have learned how to be with yourself. Hey, Cameron. Hey, Chris. And you know how to direct and delegate your resources. Now, here's the thing. Through this knowing, all the more time, money, attention, and love can flow in. Because in the world we're all in this 30-day container, hey, Christina, we work with the Akashic Records. And why do we, and the way we work with the Akashic Records is why I love it, and I'm so passionate about teaching it, and it's the foundation of my entire life, is because it creates an opportunity to have frequency, to have anything of vibration of frequency, which is literally everything, have a consciousness that you can connect and communicate and dialogue with. So when you're beginning to work with the energy of anything, you can dive into the deeper story, and you can learn how to have the energy be translated through you. And so for me, that's my favorite thing. Hey, Lisa. That's my favorite thing about the records, is like, it allows me to have a relationship with everything. And so that's what's possible here. So if we're gonna look at it through this framework of everything has consciousness, and we can dialogue and have a conversation with anything and everything, and that's how I look. That's how I look at it. That's my reality. That's my experience with many people, and I see incredible things happen through that lens, right? Then here's the other thing: the time, the money, and the attention and the love, like, they have their own destiny. They have their own legacy that they desire to fulfill, right? So the money, so when you're in leadership, and all of us we're in leadership of our own world, right? We have resources that are destined to fulfill a legacy that is our legacy. Like, the resources want to be well used by you. Your love wants to be well used. It wants to go towards the right things. It wants to go towards you. It wants to go towards the things that need love. The time that you have, the time wants to be well used. The time wants to have impact in the world. The attention, like, that's one of the most amazing things, right? That another human being, like, that's what we really crave. We crave all different things, but when you look at it in the end, it's attention, right? Because attention creates what we focus on, grows, right? Like, we know this. So attention has a destiny and a legacy, and it wants to be used well by the king or queen. And then obviously money, the same thing. So money has a destiny and a legacy. And if you're watching this video and you're part of this Soul Innovator frequency, like, you have some really cool things to do with money. Money is, money originally came through just as like a creative exchange, and obviously there's so much more to money in the human experience. And so when people are like, me, I mean, I just said it right, but it's like when it's like, oh, it's just energy, it's like, it's so much more than that. It's like we're already in a human experience, most of us, where we are not, we can, it's a nice idea to say money is just like this energy source and that energy source, but like it's so deeply ingrained in our ancestry, in our nervous system, in like, you know, like it brings you to your knees in such an intense way for so many people, right? As does love, honestly, as does love, you know, attention and time, really. So it depends on the person. But I just say that money has been used in a lot of ways that have shown the contrast, right, of how we don't want to interact and create. And it's such an exciting time, and it's a really important time for people who are here to innovate rather than perpetuate, to begin to like let their legacy money come in, right? Like how exciting if you just take a moment to think about that. Imagine if just millions of conscious people woke up simultaneously inside of this 30-day container, because the energy we're all cultivating is amplifying out. Can you just imagine if like millions of conscious people who have a big mission that requires a big amount of money, time, love, and attention suddenly woke up and said yes to being that sort of leader, and then the destined money and the destined love and the destined time and the destined attention could be like, oh my God, yes, this is it. This is what we've been waiting for, and could like come into that person's life. And that person could have the self-value and the self-love and the self-worth to know they belonged having that sort of resource, and could, with the true mindset and behavior of a real king or queen, begin to delegate the love, time, money, energy, attention into the world, into their own life. Like it's almost like stunning when you really think about like what that would really be, to have that many conscious people with a big mission on the planet come into being a king or queen simultaneously, and then all of this money that wants to be well used can go towards its experience of being well used. Whew. So we're just going to take a breath here. So, okay, so does that make sense to everyone? So that's what today's about. It's like, hey, you're the king or queen. You have a territory that you're reigning over. In order to really be in your legacy, the legacy you want to have as a king or queen, you have to be really trusting of yourself, and the king or queen's role is to really look at the full landscape, right? The full landscape of the kingdom, of where they're reigning, and know like where love, time, attention, and money needs to go. And then we can let those resources fulfill their own destiny that they want to fulfill. And it's like, we need love, time, attention, and money to fulfill our legacy, right? We do. And love, money, time, and attention need us to fulfill their legacy. Otherwise, we're just sitting here and they're just sitting there. Like, we need each other. This is a partnership, right? And that's actually part of why this is like a relationship container. So that brings me to the other piece, and then maybe we'll go into some energy. And I would love to hear like from Mary, Emily, I see all these great people who are on, like, I would love to hear what comes up. We did have some great discussion this morning in the Facebook group where I dropped the message first, but I'd love to hear that. It's how creation happens. Yeah, right. That merging, right? Like sexual energy or any sort of merging energy, that's how creation happens. Exactly, Julie. Okay, so as we take our next step into that, and the resources feel safe with us, the resources know, hey, this is a leader. It's sort of like dogs. I'm thinking of the dog whisperer, right? Like animals, anything that is needing to like come into a flow, into an alignment, like it needs to know the thing in charge, the person in charge, the leader in charge, like knows they belong being the leader. Everyone feels crazy when the leader isn't really owning their impact and their leadership. I am at work, so that's okay. You can always watch the recording later. Oh, thank you. You know, like we know that bad behavior actually comes not from there being a leader, but from the leader acting like they don't know what's happening. So if you're wondering why you don't have more time, attention, money, or love, I would invite you to like take today and just let it happen. It'll happen spontaneously, but like, let's just bring that question into the field of like, hey, I don't have more of this, but I'm actually in a leadership position in my own life where I need those resources, how has it felt for love, money, time, and attention to be with me? Have I been honoring and respectful, and have I really made careful, heart-centered, like leader decisions with my time, with my money, with my love, with my attention? Because those resources need to feel they can trust you to be the queen or the king, right? So as we step further into this is a lot about self-worth. That's the truth. Like, having access to a vast amount of any of those resources, you have to be at a certain level of self-confidence, self-worth, self-trust. Because what happens is, that's when manipulation happens, right? Like when you're not actually feeling deserving and worthy of those things, that's when self-sabotage happens. That's when you let in the sort of situations and relationship. You just like attract the things that will take that out of your field. And that's when those resources are like neutral. They love you. They want to be with you. They're not trying to stay away, but like they can't be there if you're not in the frequency of one who is owning your leadership. Does that make sense? So, okay, so as we take the next step into this, we're going to really encounter. Maybe you won't. I doubt that. Maybe you won't. But for most of us, we're going to encounter the spaces, the places, and the people that remind us where we had not yet felt our worth and where we did not know how to be the king or queen of our own life. And the thing is, it has nothing to do with those people. Like they represent that. They didn't do that to us. They didn't. We were already like a match to that sort of engagement. And it can be really painful to be with ourselves with that. So we can sometimes want to make it about the person. And when we think about our guides and guardians, right, or spreading ourselves too thin, that's another way, right, where we don't act like we're in control of our own time and energy. That's a great point. So this brings me back to actually something that happened a couple years ago. I'm just going to take a minute to see how I want to describe this. Okay. So one of the things I talk about a lot is what we just talked about, which is money. Hi, Erin. Which is like prosperity and abundance and all these things, right? And it took me a long time. I knew I was here with a big purpose and a big mission, and I've always been pretty magnetic and like really created an impact where I've been. But I did not have the self-worth to really see myself as someone who got to have a lot of any of those things directed towards me. And it took me like a lot of inner work to really allow that. The one in particular was money. Like money was a source of real shame and confusion and vagueness for me for a long time. And so I would always do this work, but I just assumed, I was living more in the martyr way of doing this work. And I've talked about this before. And so I always had a lot of side jobs and always, for 12, 13 years, I've always had clients and all of that, but always, there's always some stuff going on, and I always felt a lot of shame, and I always felt like I didn't get to have the other things that other people had, and part of that is being an entrepreneur and doing something outside of the box, and part of it was definitely a self-worth thing. And so it took me a lot of years to figure it out, and about 5-6 years ago, I had tried before that, but 5 or 6 years ago is when I really came into alignment of I need to start being in environments consistently where people are reflecting back to me that I can do this work and I can be well paid and well supported for it, because I can't not do it, but I can't live this way anymore. And so I started to be in these kind of, I invested in a lot of coaching and high-end sort of mentorships and retreats and things like that, and had that reflection, and it created a huge breakthrough for me. And so I went from not having those sort of resources especially of money, to having a lot of it, right? More than I'd ever had in my life, making in a month more than I had made in a year, having those sort of big experiences, starting to have an identity that was associated with that, and all of those things. And I get it, we need to. All of us need to be people who have a lot of those resources. And part of why the having it work, and some of you know about the Awakened Woman's Playbook to Having It, part of that came through because I realized I learned how to manifest a lot of that, right? But I hadn't actually, you can manifest a lot of money without being on the self-worth level of that amount of money. And we can see that with the amount of like successful people or famous people or whatever that like self-sabotage. So I had amassed a really significant amount of money without actually like, and had great results with people. It wasn't even that, but it was like somewhere I couldn't sit with it. I didn't know how to be the queen. And I had spent so many years having a lot of power, but not actually being in a position of power in most of my life. And so, and also feeling like my value came from making people feel comfortable. But when you're the queen, the priority can't be everyone being comfortable. You're on a bigger level, you're on a bigger vision, and legacy is not about pain and suffering, but legacy is not about reaching for short-term comfort. So there was a lot of times in which I felt like so much of my value was making people happy and comfortable, right? And like prioritizing them. And then like, I came into this leadership position where I had all these resources and I didn't know how to really sit with it and be comfortable. And I basically like began to like invest in ways that, well, you know, it's like I don't regret anything I've invested in or anything I've done, you know, and I really believe in investment and deep investment as like a deep, powerful healing experience. And a lot of people have invested deeply with me, and I know that's been a deep healing experience for them. And there's things that happened in high, like, you know, where I've invested deeply, there's experiences that have happened that like I didn't like. I'm sure people feel that way with me. You know what I mean? Like there's just a lot of energy and a lot that's healing on a very deep level when we take this really polarizing thing, which is money, and we invest it in ways that not everyone in our world understands, so that we can have a life that not everyone in our world has, you know? And so that's been like a big part of my focus, my whole adult life, but I really started to like nail it like about 5 years ago. And then in the last year, you know, in the years coming from that, it was like going from a lot of shame and a lot of scarcity to like suddenly being like a six-figure up, multiple, whatever person, but like not actually having a self-value, like that feeling really like it whacked me in certain ways. And part of what happened was the self-worth still wasn't there. So I started to make all these investments that were based on not being enough. So it's like, thank God I have these resources, and like, let me put it over here and maybe I'll be worthy of these resources and they can keep coming in. And it's like, what a paradox, because like the reason I had the resources to invest in that is because I am enough, because I am here to be a queen, because I am here in leadership, right? And it's a confusing thing because there's nothing more life-changing. That's why I'm in this world. Like I love deep healing work and deep transformational work, and like there has to be an exchange. Obviously I do a lot of content of service that's free, for example this, but you know, I really believe in that. And it's just like there can be a dance where you're constantly creating the resources and then like putting it outwards and like not realizing you only have the resources because you don't actually need that. I don't know, right? Does anyone get what I'm saying, or is it making sense? So 2 years ago, during this soul navigation adventure time, that's when I was like really at a level, like an unprecedented level for me of like how easy it had become to bring in like massive amounts of money. And I had all of this resource and I still wasn't quite in the self-value of it. And and part of it is just being an entrepreneur. You're going to try different things. But I remember that the day I moved here, it was so amazing to me that I got to like have this transformation and be connected to all of you and have like the most amazing clients on the planet and be like so well paid for and well supported and like just finally do it. The thing that had taken so long. And like there was a certain like, oh my God, I got here, like moving to Venice Beach, right on the ocean, exactly where I wanted to be, like all of these things, right? And it was like so much that it kind of almost blew me out. And that day I was like exhausted and had a lot of launches and different personal things going on and business things going on. And I took a call with someone, and it was like my first sunset sitting here at the beach, like, oh my God, this amazing thing you just did for yourself. And it was like, instead of just sitting and being with the sunset, I'm on like another sales call with another person, because when you're someone who has a lot of resources, a lot of visibility, like a lot of people are reaching out to me all the time to see if I want to hire them. Like, and I often do. So I get, and it's not a wrong thing, but I remember that it was like, oh, like that's not really an alignment, right? Like that's not really being a queen, because a queen needs to be like, hey, I just got to my new territory. I need to like hang out in my castle, and like we'll discuss this at another time. But instead it was like so much to have so much resource and so much power and so much of my desire fulfilled at the same time, and while losing security in other ways, because when you lose identity, when you really become the queen or the king, you're beginning to really release identity that has served you. So it can be really scary to become the king or queen, because if you haven't been the king or queen, you've been something else. And that something else has been good, you know? And so I think I was losing so many identities at once, and I had all this resource, and I hadn't actually developed enough of a relationship, because I'd had been doing well for a few years then, but like there was something very significant about this move for me. And I just like made an investment that wasn't really aligned. And it was a significant investment, but I've made investments of that size before. It was over 10,000, but it's, you know, it's something I'd done before. And then I just like could never quite get into alignment with the investment. And I didn't have the self-worth and the self-confidence to like figure out the right way. You can see how hot I'm getting during talking about this. It's connected to something deeper. And that's what you have to realize, is like, it's not about the money. It's not about the person. It's not about the money I invested. It's not even about the person. They're a good person. It's something deeper. It's something about that action and where I didn't really feel like a queen that is absolutely getting burned off and alchemized in this 30-day thing. So you can actually see it. And I like, you know, like, let this be a reflection. Like, I'm burning this because I embody this, because you're burning this, because we're all burning this away. It's not about the person. It's not about the money. All of these resources can continue to flow and come back, especially as we come into our king or queen. There was something about, I had finally really stepped into my queen, and then I like made a decision that was based on not feeling worthy of my throne. You know, it wasn't the person. 10K is pocket change for queens. Yeah, you know what I mean? Our money as queens and kings want to know they can trust us to do the right thing. And my money at that point was like, hey, queen, we just got here. Can we take a minute? And I surrounded myself with a lot of people. I was at the point where I was around a lot of people who I wanted this and they wanted this for me. Like, let's get you to the $1 million mark. Because I was at a point where it was like, that's where I was headed. And people wanted to really support that. And what I see now is that the queen in me needed to say, hey everybody, including Allie, you're going to get to that 7-figure mark as in due time, when it's time. In this moment, you need to be in the kingdom you've already created. Then we'll go there, right? Like, you need a moment to recalibrate because you have a new identity, because you just had a major move, right? Like, these are all the things that no one could have told me but me, because I'm the queen, because you're the queen. So it's like no one else's thing, no one else's fault. It's like the queen, there's only one queen who could have told me that, and it's me. And I didn't have the self-worth on some level to feel that. And that's releasing, which is why I'm as hot as I am in a perfectly ocean breezy cool room. Like, this is the transmutation of that. Just check the time here. All right, we're doing good. So basically that happened, and something about that, I didn't know how to ask him. I really wanted to have a conversation with the person, be like, listen, this obviously wasn't a fit. I'm sorry. I wasn't well educated enough in what I was trying to do with you. I didn't have the time or the availability for what it ended up actually being I would need to do for that person to help me. And other people around me were like, get a refund, like, or talk to the, like, you know, and I just couldn't do it. I would literally become hysterical even thinking about doing it. I just could not do it. And it shocked me. And so I assumed it must meant, oh, I'm supposed to stay with this investment. And it put me on a ride for until recently of it was the origin of a series of investments that were based on not actually feeling like a queen, not actually acting worthy of and it's not about these people or their skill sets or anything. It's like, this is about me. But there's something about the day moving here to not give myself as the queen the sunset, to not take a moment to get super clear on what would be required from my own time, energy, money, and love for that exchange, right? Like, there's something about that created a thread that continued for a long time. And I just am coming out of that space in the last several months, to be honest. And I had to just be with me And this is what you have to do to be a king or queen. Like, I had to just start to get comfortable with just being with myself, and to look at, there's been phenomenal investments, and all of them in their own way are phenomenal, but there was a lot of investment I was making that was based on like, someone please tell me I'm worthy of being this queen. And like, no one can tell you that but you. But we can create conditions where you can uncover the part of you that can tell you that. And that's my intention with this work. But like, no one else, didn't matter who I hired or what I did. Like, no one can tell me that but me. No one but me can decide I'm worthy of my legacy. No one but you can decide you're worthy of your legacy. Somehow we're getting like what I think is maybe the whole teaching of the Epic Legacy program that just came out this week, and I'll put a link to that here, and this 30-day, like, we're getting it right in the beginning, I guess, because whew. So last night we did our thing. It was so powerful, right? Yesterday, I have had this vision of having a group of women that heal together and hold each other on the east side of LA and on the west side. And it's like witches of the west side, and then we go to the witches of the east side, and we hold down the city of Los Angeles together. This has been this like vision I've had. And it finally, like, my housemate invited me, and like, it just, suddenly I was with the witches of the west side last night, and it was amazing. And we made the commitment of, we're gonna do this because, and I was like, wouldn't it be amazing if we all had a community that gave you your base need of like love and support and healing, so that like when you invest, you can go to a much higher level with whoever you invest with. Like, that's what I really want for the people who work with me, is that they have a life and a community that is giving them their base level of love and trust and, you know, healing, so that we can do some other crazy next level shit. Like, their baseline is covered. And so we were talking about that, and it was like this amazing thing, and we like activated all this stuff together. And then we go to get food, and I'm, you know, feeling good, and I'm in my queen, and I'm just like, I'll have this little plum. Like, I was in Erewhon, which is like my, you know, it's a Queens grocery store if you've ever been to Venice. And I'm sitting outside, and it's like the person from that original experience ends up being out there, and I haven't seen them in 2 years. But it's like, that's how this 30-day is going. And I can't even tell you, I went into my complete involuntary, and it's not this person. They're a great person, you know what I mean? It's me, it's what has to be moved out of me. And as soon as I saw them, I was like, I'm very confident, as you know, I was shaking, I was moving, like I didn't know what to do. And then I went to say hi to them. They were totally cool. They introduced me to the person they were with. Everyone gave me a hug. They had a dog. I was playing with the dog. And then it was like I had already gotten my Uber. When I saw them, I got so scared. I clicked my Uber. And the Akasha was like, go over there, please. Like, we're going to front like this isn't part of this whole adventure. And so I went and said hi. But then the Uber came. And then it was like, ah! I was like, oh, that's my Uber. You know, like I just was so weird. And like, ran into the Uber and came home and was just like, this is it. This started a process where I can be in a calm place when I'm in session, but like me doing me is just this right now. And it was like, it was embarrassing. You know, I felt embarrassed because it's like, that's where my queen, like, I don't let my queen in that situation. I haven't let my queen be there, you know? This so resonates. I just moved here. I have this big project I've launched and I'm behind. And it's like the only, I want to read the rest of it. And I'm behind the 8 ball, and I also committed. Yeah, so sometimes we're spread thin. And when we're spread thin, we're not in our king and queen. You know what I mean? So that was the first like really big experience. I had never been more of a queen than when I landed here. And then I made a not queenly, how I did it was not my queen, if that makes sense. It's nothing wrong with the investment or the person, yada yada. And it's traveled with me until now. And it's time to end. And right, you just want to land and soak in. That's your queen being like, we're going to get to all of that, you know? And I'm laughing because I can so relate. Oh my God. I didn't even know if I wanted to talk about it. Then I was worried the person might see this video. The reaction is what happened when running into an old boyfriend or lover. Right, someone who really saw, yes. I'm not, but you know what's funny, Maureen? I was like, I'm not even like this if I run into an ex. Like, it's a different thing. And it's something that's burning up and alchemizing and transmuting. And so I reached out to my brother because he's a CEO. He's a major business person. He's also a Qigong teacher, and we have a Qi practice together. And I was like, oh my God. And I told him about this, and I'm like, I can't stop shaking. And he was like, and the guides and my brother were like, you may not actually need to reach out to this person again, but obviously if I need to, it's in the field as we see. It's the person's here. And bring it into your field. He was like, bring it into your Qigong practice. And I was like, I'm going to bring it into the 30-day. And like, what is the teaching that's here? Because I'm so triggered by it that I can't clear this myself, you know? And that's where I am so far, is that the teaching that then came through for today was to be the king or queen of the territory and to really understand that, to really know like no one else. And the sessions I've done today have all been about this, have been like really powerful people coming into their legacy, making a big leap or move. And like the reflection is like, no one else has the plan but you. No one else has the plan but you. And we don't have to, we can trust that, you know? And there was a way I felt dumb or silly, like once I realized I'd been wrong because the queen hadn't been there when we made that investment decision. It had really been the part of me that's like, well, if we have the resource, we should do it because I guess this is going to give us more resource. You know what I mean? It was like someone that didn't belong at the meeting table made that decision. It was based on like fear. And so that, again, like I think it's the end of this thread, and I don't know where this is going to go, or if I'm going to, hey, Arcana, Marina, I don't know if I'm going to see the person again, if we're going to connect on it. I just know that like this might be what I invested in. If you know what I mean, like this might be what the actual investment was. And I bring that to anyone on here who has felt disillusioned or confused about why they invested their time, energy, love, or money in a way that ended up not feeling great, you know, or not making you feel like a king or a queen. It's like, is it worth the investment if this thing that's probably wreaking havoc in my life in a more subtle way, like there's a way it's wreaking havoc in this thing where I can't not pay attention, and it's so clearly not just the person, because I go into this involuntary weird place, right? So it's like, it's very obvious in this situation, but I'm sure it's affecting my life in I know it is, right? I know it's affecting my life in other ways that are more subtle, that I feel more control in. So today is about like, let's just close our eyes, and like all of this is actually an energetic transmission, like sharing this and talking and all of this, right? So just like breathe that in, and today is the day to really become the king or the queen of your territory, and realize it's okay for that to feel uncomfortable. You're gonna have to lose some identities, but I want you to just breathe in the frequency of gold. That's the color of legacy. Maybe purple, maybe there's another color, but I'm seeing that. But if you see another color, that's great too. But just breathe in the energy of legacy, of royalty. And the reason royalty is so important here, I'm being so told, is because royalty isn't logical. Nobody votes for royalty, right? Royalty is a birthright, like it or not. So it's very important to understand that part. Like no one's voting on us being in leadership. It's our birthright. Really important. That's why we're being guided to the loyalty thing. Or I'm sorry, the royalty thing. So just breathe in your birthright as this legacy. Bring that fully into your body, ground it into the earth. And let's just allow every scenario that is ready to be cleared, alchemized, transmuted in our field, any origin, any source point that has created a string of situations where we could not be our queen or our king. I invite that to be healed and cleared within this space. This is the month to do it. So just take one more breath here. Exhale out, and just feel the way whatever needs to be brought into this field is in the field now, and you're in your queen or in your king. And so we can begin to work this. And it's really important. It's really important. And I guess that's why I'm having an experience of this. It's not about logic. It's just about truth. It's about rightness. It's about destiny. It's about your birthright. It doesn't have to make sense. doesn't have to be logical, and sometimes we've been taken out or talked off our throne because something seemed logical, or because someone spoke to the part of us, right, that was like not quite sure, and what we were feeling wasn't logical, right? Like our birthright thing maybe didn't feel logical, so we were talked off the throne by that fear. So it's like, stay in your throne, really stay strong and grounded through this month. And it's not about logic. Legacy is not about logic, but if you stick in long enough, I'm seeing this for a lot of people in my life. If you stick in long enough, it'll all line up in a very logical way. But when you're in leadership, you have to be willing to see the way, even when not everyone else can see the logic yet. And there's a dance between that being self-sabotage and that being truth. And when you're in your king or queen, you'll know. Okay, so we're just going to clear and release. Everything here is permanently cleared and released. It's done. It's transmuted, and so it is. Everything we've brought in and activated today is totally here in the field, healed, opened. May all beings be happy and free. Everyone who's participated in what we're talking about today, like, let it just be good. Let us all turn the page. Let us go to the next part of the story. Let's send gratitude to the Akashic Records, to the guides and guardians, to everyone who is part of the origin of this pattern we're going to clear, and to the technology and the community that brings us together. We know the work continues beyond this time, and we're always connected by heart. And for now, we'll breathe back into existence the door between worlds. And the records are closed. The session is complete. Okay. Wow. Thanks. Thanks for being here. Let's see what some of the comments are. I think it brings in the lessons that wouldn't be revealed had it not been for the trigger event, that gives us an ability to see a side of us we didn't even realize was there. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I love that, and I think it could give us all a lot of peace around anything we feel unresolved about. This is a month to allow those resolutions to take place, because we're stepping into our legacy, right? Like, we're stepping into the long game, so we want to heal and clear any of that. Thank you. Laughter wells up as I listen. Yeah, you're so welcome. So that's the theme for today. You can register for free. I do have a whole program about love and money legacy that just launched this week. I'll put a link in if you want to join us for that. It's at a really great price point. For most people, I think it's doable, and it'll allow us to like do some private work together. And this is fun. And drink a lot of water today if you're hot the way I am. Like, I just want to prepare you. Like, this is a foreshadowing. Like, things that have not allowed you to be in your king and queen are going to come up in this field. And again, the other thing I really use has been very helpful, has been working with CBD and hemp oil. I'm going to take a pump right after this, but have a wonderful rest of your day. Share this with the people who would really be impacted as the queen or king of your kingdom. If you know this resource needs to go out to someone, let it go out. And thank you all for being here. I'll talk to you tomorrow.